Neville Goddard, The Law and the Promise, Chapter 12, Attitudes, or as Earl Nightingale might say, attitude. Mental things are alone real. What is called corporeal, nobody knows of its dwelling place. It is in fallacy and its existence an imposture. Where is the existence out of mind or thought? Where is it but in the mind of a fool? Blake. Wow. Starts off wonderfully. Mental things are alone real. As I said on the previous video, when you close these, you're looking at the fourth dimension. You're literally there. So whatever you see or feel in this moment, when you're in the closet with the door closed, you're looking at the fourth dimension. It is real what you see here in this moment with those peepers closed. What is called corporeal? Nobody knows if it's of its dwelling place. When these are closed, what is its dwelling place? It is in fallacy and its existence an imposture. Fantasy, fallacy. Where is the existence out of mind or thought? Where is it but in the mind of a fool? Man, Blake, wow. What would it have been like to hang out with him for a day? Whew. Memory, though faulty, is adequate to the call for sameness. If we remember another as we have known him, we recreate him in that image, and the past will be recognized in the present. We got into this in chapter 8, if you look back just a few chapters. It's a very, very important point right off the bat. I mean, talk about home run. He's already knocking it out of the park right here. If we remember another as we've known him, we recreate him in that image. And the past will be recognized in the present. Imagining creates reality. If there is room for improvement, we should reconstruct him with new content. Visualize him as we would like him to be, rather than have him bear the burden of our memory of him. Everything possible to be believed is an image of truth. Everything possible to be believed is an image of truth. Man, that's the first paragraph, and that is really amazing right there. The following story is by one who believes that imagining creates reality, and acting on this belief, changed his attitude toward a stranger and bore witness to this change in reality. More than 20 years ago, when I was a green farm boy, newly arrived in Boston to attend school, a panhandler asked me for money for a meal. Although the money I had was pitifully insufficient for my own needs, I gave him what was in my pocket. A few hours a few hours later, the same man, by this time staggering drunk, stopped me again and asked for money. I was so outraged to think the money I could so ill afford had been put to such use. I made myself a solemn pledge that I would never again listen to the plea of a street beggar. Through the years, I kept my pledge, but every time I refused anyone, my conscience needled me. I felt guilty even to the point of developing a sharp pain in my stomach, but I couldn't bring myself to unbend. The early part of this year, a man stopped me as I was walking my dog and asked for money so he could eat. True to the old pledge, I refused him. His manner was gracious as he accepted my refusal. He even admired my dog and spoke of a family in New York State he knew that raised Cocker Spaniels. This time my conscience was really pricking me. As he went on his way, I determined to remake that scene as I wished it had been, so I stopped right there on the street, stopped right there in the moment, closed my eyes for only a few moments, and enacted the scene differently. Excuse me. In my imagination, I had the same man approach me, Okay, now he stops in the moment, reimagining, he's revising, reimagining the same man approach him, only this time he opened the conversation by admiring my dog. After we talked for a moment, I had him say, I don't like to ask you this, but I really need something to eat. I have a job that begins tomorrow morning, but I've been out of work and tonight I'm hungry. I then reach into my imaginary pocket, pulled out an imaginary $5 bill and gladly gave it to him. This imaginal act immediately dissolved the guilty feeling and the pain. Now, there's a phrase, what is fact but official fiction, right? And we've seen that throughout the material, throughout Neville's material. The persistence in something that's not real ends up being real, etc., etc., etc. He's imagining the scene differently, giving him the $5 bill. What, I'm asking you, what is the difference? Like when you go to bed at night and you're reliving the day and you're revising the day, because now you're doing that, what's the difference between the way you think you remembered it versus the way you're recreating it? There actually literally is no difference. It's all a dream anyway. row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. You're recreating a dream. It's a dream in the first place. It's an awake dream in the first place. This is going to be getting into the advanced territory, but it is only a dream. So since it is a dream and you're constructing during a live presentation of your own dream, and you're like, I believe this is Freedom Berry's story of a situation he had in San Francisco. If you're in a live situation and something's calling you to revise and reimagine right now, stop. Turn off the music, turn off the lecture, turn off whatever you're listening to. Pull your focus home to where you are. Your eyes can be open. I do this all the time. Your eyes can be open. It's not a big deal. If you're driving, for me, if I'm driving, a large part of me it's unconscious to drive now. I mean, I can literally, I was using a gear shift there. I learned on a 3 in the tree. And later on, I bought my own car. I finally got me a stick shift, but nowadays it's obviously automatic. But it's automatic when you're driving. You're like, you know what a red light means. You know so you can easily phase out and imagine lovingly during these moments. Freedom here, it sounds like, is taking this moment actively in that exact moment. The exact moment you're having the experience, when you see somebody or when somebody's asking you like this and then he wants to give them the real leg up, then you take that moment and you reimagine. You do your live revision. You do your revision in real time, live in the moment. The moment's where all your power is. So, hence why that means anything at all. The moment is where your power is. This imaginal act dissolved the guilty feeling and the pain within him. I know from your teaching that an imaginal act is fact, so I knew I could grant anyone what he asked, and by faith in the imaginal act, consent to the reality of his having it. 4 months later, this is Freedom's story. 4 months later, as I was again walking my dog, the same man approached me and opened the conversation by admiring my dog. Here's a beautiful dog, he said. Young man, I don't suppose you remember me, but a while back I asked you for some money and you very kindly said no. I say kindly because if you had given it to me, I would still be asking for money. Instead, I got a job that very next morning, and now I am on my feet and have some self-respect again. I knew his job was a fact when I imagined it that night some 4 months before. But I won't deny there was immense satisfaction in having him appear in the flesh to confirm it. Signed, FB. Well, there it is. I don't read these in advance, by the way. So there it is, Freedom Berry. What a wonderful, wonderful testimonial. Silver and gold have I not for thee, but what I have I give. Right? Peter, at the gates, Oh, excuse me. Here we go. I have no silver and gold, but I give what I have. Acts 3:6. I mean, it's so simple. What is it you have? What are you gladly in possession of but thought? And that wonderful, wonderful, ever infinite thing, imagination, the true treasure house. The true treasure house, the privilege of our being is our imagination. None is to be discarded. All must be saved. And our imagination reshaping memory is the process whereby this salvation is brought to pass. To condemn the man for having lost his way is to punish the already punished. Oh, whom should I pity if I pity not the sinner who has gone astray? Not what the man was, but what he may become should be our imaginal activity. Cowboys and aliens. Not what the man was, but what he may become should be our imaginal activity. And if you haven't heard me say it before, I was watching this movie called Cowboys and Aliens with Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, and another actor, and I will have to look up his name. This other actor played this preacher. And every line of his is pure gold. And I think his role in the movie lasts for maybe the first hour or so. And everything he says, pay close attention because it's written wonderfully. But, punchline, while he is in, and I'm spoiling the movie, I know, while he's in the throes of his character finishing his role in the movie, Daniel Craig's character is going to his aid, and the character I'm speaking of, the preacher, says to Daniel Craig's character, remember, God doesn't care who you were, he only cares who you are. In fact, the full line, he says, go get our people. Remember, God doesn't care who you were, he only cares who you are. I mean, the ultimate line. Go get our people, meaning be the good shepherd. Go get those who have strayed. And in the story, there's a drama, and interpreting movies is fascinating. Interpreting movies is like interpreting a dream. We're going to get into that on this channel as well. But I think the first movie we'll do together is The Count of Monte Cristo, and it's going to be a reaction video, and we're going to break it down. And it's such a good movie, man. I just watched it again recently. The black and white 1934 version that Abdullah and Neville sat in a theater together and watched. Gold, that movie. God doesn't care where you were. He only cares where you are. Not what the man was, but what he may become should be our imaginal activity. Don't you remember Sweet Alice, Ben Bolt, Sweet Alice, whose hair was so brown, who wept with delight when you gave her a smile and trembled with fear at your frown? If we imagine no worse of him than he of himself, he would pass as excellent. If we imagine no worse of him than he would of himself. It's not the man at his best, but the imaginist exercising the spirit of forgiveness that performs the miracle. Remember, the word forgiveness in Neville interpretation is imagining lovingly. Imagining with new content transformed both the man who asked and the man who gave. Imagining has not yet had its due in the systems either of moralists or educators. When it does, there will be the opening of the prison to those who are bound. Big time. Nothing has existence for us save through the memory we have of it. Think about that. Memory, boy, oh boy, what is that? Let's figure that out. Nothing has existence for us save through the memory we have of it. Therefore, we should remember it is not as it was, unless, of course, it was altogether desirable, but as we desire it to be. Think about that. Take inventory of your memory. What is it you remember on a daily basis? What flies in from nowhere? If it is something you desire to be in a different form, even a memory of you riding a bike. If you desire that bike ride that you fell in front of somebody to be different, then you remember it when you popped a wheelie past people and they were clapping at you, having fun, laughing with you, being so excellent at what you were doing. This is any memory. Just see the memory in the new version. This sentence is profound. Nothing has existence for us save through the memory we have of it. Nothing means everything, animate and inanimate. Therefore, we should remember it not as it was, unless, of course, it was altogether desirable, but as we desire it to be. Inasmuch as imagining is creative, our memory of another either furthers or hinders him and makes his upward or downward way easier and swifter. You can see why you are in your garden. You have been put there. No one else is there for you. You are there for a reason. You are the gardener who keeps his garden pruned. Pruning is a way of pulling out the dead, unneeded weeds and limbs that aren't helping the further growth of that in your garden. Your garden is your family. Your garden is your siblings. Your garden is your parents. Your garden is your children. Your garden is your coworkers. Your garden is your bosses. Your garden is everything and everybody around you. How do you want them to be in your world? You want them to be as you desire them to be? It's your opportunity. It is your opportunity. No one's coming to do it for you. You are the gardener. There is no coal of character so dead that it will not glow and flame if but slightly turned. The following story shows that imagining can make rings and husbands and move people to China. My husband, child of a broken home and raised by beloved grandparents, was never close to his mother, nor she to him. A woman of 63 and a divorcee for 32 of those years, she was lonely and embittered. And my relationship with her was strained as I attempted to stay in the middle. By her own admission, her great desire was to remarry for companionship. But she believed this to be impossible at her age. My husband would often state to me that he hoped she would remarry, and as he fervently put it, perhaps live way out of town. I had the same wish, as I put it, perhaps move to China. Being wary of my personal motive for this wish, I knew I must change my feeling toward her in my imaginal drama, and at the same time give her what she wanted. I began by seeing her in my imagination as a completely changed personality, a happy, joyous woman, secure and contented in a new relationship. Every time I thought of her, I would see her mentally as a new woman. That doesn't cost anything. What is the cost? It's not even a hassle to do. It's exciting to do. About 3 weeks later, 3 weeks, 21 days, it's a common theme going here. She came to our house for a visit, bringing a friend she had met many months previously. The man had recently become a widower. He was her age, secure financially, and had grown grandchildren and grandchildren. We liked him, and I was excited because it was obvious they liked each other. But my husband still thought it was impossible. I didn't. From that day on, every time her image rose in my mind, I saw her extending her left hand toward me, and I admired the ring on her finger. I ask you, what is the cost to imagine that of anybody of your friends who are single, who want to be married? What does it cost you to imagine that? 1 month later, she and her friend came to visit us, and as I walked forward to greet them, she proudly extended her left hand. The ring was on her finger. 2 weeks later, she was married, and we haven't seen her since. She lives in a brand new home, way out of town, and as her new husband dislikes the long drive to our house, she might as well have moved to China. Signed JB. Wow. Wow. Imagine lovingly, my friends. Imagine lovingly, or don't imagine at all. There is a wide difference between the will to resist an activity and the decision to change it. He who changes an activity acts, whereas he who resists an activity reacts. One creates and the other perpetuates. Nothing is real beyond the imaginative patterns we make of it. Memory, no less than desire, resembles a daydream. Oh, big time. Why make it a daymare? Nightmare, daymare. Man can forgive only if he treats memory as a daydream and shapes it to his heart's desire. Exactly what we just discussed. Imagine it lovingly. Whatever that memory flies in comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what? Why is that in my head right now? You can reshape the entire memory into a new creation of yours. RK learned that we may rob others of their abilities by our attitudes toward them. He changed his attitude and thereby changed a fact. I am not a moneylender, nor am I the investment business as such, but a friend and business acquaintance came to me for a substantial loan in order to expand his plant. Because of personal friendship, I granted the loan with reasonable interest rates and gave my friend the right of renewal at the end of 1 year. When the first year term expired, he was behind in his interest payments and requested a 30-day extension on the note. 30-day extension, excuse me. I granted this request, but at the end of 30 days, he was still unable to meet the note and asked for an additional extension. As I previously stated, I am not in the business of lending money. Within 20 days, I needed full payment of the loan to meet debts of my own. But I consented again to extend the note, although my own credit was now in serious jeopardy. The natural thing to do was to apply legal pressure to collect, and a few years ago, I would have done just that. Instead, I remembered your warning not to rob others of their ability, and I realized that I had been robbing my friend of his ability to pay what he owed. You can see how he was doing that, right? For 3 nights, I constructed a scene in my imagination, 3 nights, in my imagination, which I heard my friend tell me that unexpected orders had flooded his desk so rapidly, he was now able to pay the loan in full. The 4th day, I received a telephone call from him. He told me that by what he called a miracle, he had received so many orders, and big ones too, he was now able to pay back my loan, including all interest due, and in fact had just mailed a check to me for the entire amount. Signed, RK. Just take it in. It's so simple. It is so simple when we imagine lovingly with a loving intent. That's why I always throw in what works. I am a blender of what works. I love you. Thank you. I'm saying that to you. I love you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. I actually, really, truly love you. Thank you. Love, the most powerful thing there is. Neville even admits. Love, hope, and faith, the most powerful being love. Gratitude. Thank you, Father. Have we not heard that from Neville a million times? Thank you, Father. The most powerful prayer, he says, is thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father. I love you. Thank you. How hard is that to blend into this mix? If you're going to imagine anybody, you want to imagine 2 things. 2 of your friends, it's 2 things if you're imagining anybody in your life. Your spouse, your parents, your children, your brothers and sisters, your neighbors, the mailman, the postman, the milkman, everybody. How am I going to think about them without thinking, I love you and thank you? And if it's that hard to come up with something, then just say, When you think of the person, I love you, thank you. Just do that. You got to start somewhere with this process. You don't have to recreate a menagerie of activity with them in your mind. Someone pops to mind, I love you, thank you. I love you, thank you. Now you can go to the other parts of that Ho'oponopono prayer and use the I'm sorry, please forgive me, but I think Hugh Lin, Dr. Hugh Lin, kind of was all about the short version of it. I love you, thank you. There's so much to behold in that body of work. It's wonderful, but it fits right in here. Because all it is a piece of what we're studying. It fits right in here. It's Neville's told us the same information. There's nothing more fundamental to the secret of imagining than the distinction between imagining and the state imagined. There's nothing more fundamental to the secret of imagining than the distinction between imagining and the state imagined. Mental things are alone real. Everything possible to be believed is an image of truth. End of chapter. Wow. Amazing chapter. So many good things in here. Opening quote by Blake. Mental things are alone real. What is called corporeal? Nobody knows of its dwelling place. It is in fallacy, and its existence an imposture. Where is the existence out of mind or thought? Where is it but in the mind of a fool? Blake, I wonder if he means a fool just to be somebody who just imagines. And I think that's really what it is. Because when you take this on faith that your imagination creates reality, all you're simply doing is play acting anyway. What you did as a child, literally, without even getting permission. You never asked permission to imagine when you came into this life. You never asked anybody, is it okay if I imagine? And some people have had some very tough beginnings. Some people have had other beginnings. Some people have had different beginnings. It doesn't matter. But when did you ever remember anybody asking for permission to imagine something? It's actually literally born into you. Remembering, he became you so that he would forget himself in you, so you would wake up with the memory that you are him. He imagined you into being so that you would imagine where you came from and remember that your imagination is the ultimate gift that he gave you. I am all that is God. That's the he. Imagination is born in you because he imagined you in the first place. You're of imagination already. You already are the dream from the dreamer. And in your dream activity, you also dream. Can't deny that. All right, end of chapter. We're going to see you in the next one.